Tonight, Free Minds TV visits the 2009 Liberty Forum in Nashua, New Hampshire. After that, we'll be getting into the Downsizer Dispatch, then into some articles, one about failed drug amnesty in Western Australia. That and a whole lot more tonight on Free Minds TV.
And welcome to a brand new edition of Free Minds TV, where we challenge you, the viewer, to think outside the box. With you, as always, is Toby.
And Nick.
All right, Nick, this past weekend, we had the opportunity to travel to Nashua, New Hampshire, as we said in the intro, for the 2009 New Hampshire Liberty Forum. I think this is the third one they've put on, where they have all sorts of, like you said, celebrities come out, speakers, events, as well as people who just care about freedom and liberty, trying to check out what's going on in New Hampshire, the liberty movement, trying to get 20,000 people to move here to fight for more freedom and more liberty. We had the opportunity to go out, interview some of these people, check it out for the people who were there, didn't get to see all the speakers, or for people who want to check out what it was like. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and roll the clip, see what happened at the 2009 New Hampshire Liberty Forum.
Free Minds TV is coming to you from the Liberty Forum here in Nashua, New Hampshire, which this year is taking place at the Crowne Plaza Hotel. There's all kinds of speakers lined up for the 2009 Liberty Forum, which from what I hear is the biggest one yet. So we're going to be talking to regular attendees as well as some of the major speakers that the other people are coming to see. And just giving you a sense of what's going on here at the Liberty Forum. You might be familiar with the Pork Fest, which is the other Free State gathering that takes place once a year. We covered that here on Free Minds TV. And Liberty Forum is a little bit different in that it takes place in a hotel either in winter or in early spring. So there's not a whole lot of camping going on like there is at Pork Fest. And people are dressed up a little bit more panel speakers. It's a little bit more like what you would expect out of a typical convention. But why don't you follow us inside and we'll see what's going on here at the Crowne Plaza Hotel, Liberty Forum 2009. So we're here with Glen Jacobs, who some of our viewers might know as Kane from his career in the WWE as a wrestler. And Glen, you're also a pro-liberty activist. You've been speaking here at the 2009 Liberty Forum. What were the topics you were addressing? Because we actually weren't there for the speech.
I talked about paradigms and how people's worldview affects things, and also Austrian economics, and the fact that libertarianism is the most realistic paradigm. It's actually how the world works, and opportunities that hopefully will come to us in the future as the other paradigms prove false.
And what have you been doing outside of the Liberty Forum? What's your activism like when you're not here in New Hampshire?
Well, unfortunately, not as much as it would be if I were here. But you know, I try to write a little bit, and I just try to keep myself educated as much as I can, and then I try to support some of the movements out there, some of the groups that are doing good things. And
are you planning to move to New Hampshire at some point in the future?
I'd like to, if my personal situation allows me to, but we'll have to sort of, get that figured out. I think that's the case with a lot of people, unfortunately.
All right, well, we hope we see you here someday.
Cool,
thanks.
Nick.
We're here with Dave Ridley of the Ridley Report. And Dave, you want to tell our viewers who aren't familiar, I think a lot of them do watch your reports, but you want to tell our viewers who don't know what the Ridley Report is?
It's sort of a poor man's TV station. Basically what I do is I try to broadcast 2 stories per day about New Hampshire Liberty news. And there's pretty much standard news stories, told in the same way that a news reporter would tell them, with a lot of different pictures. I don't focus on just aiming the camera at myself, but I try to get, a lot of pictures from what's going on.
And recently, in shooting the Ridley Report, you did some civil disobedience in Keene, New Hampshire. Basically, the judge had ruled, despite the fact that New Hampshire law says you should be able to have a camera in the courtroom, that cameras weren't allowed in his courtroom, and you decided that you didn't really like that particular ruling and you were going to challenge it by attempting to tape. Were you going to try to tape in the courtroom or just in the lobby of the court?
Well, I had sent him a note in advance. It goes back a little bit to the way he had treated Tom Caruso. Caruso was a documentarian who came up, he drove 4 hours to get to Keene to videotape a victimless crime trial. And when he started videotaping, within 4 minutes, the judge had shut him down. So he's driven 4 hours to videotape only 4 minutes, and he's done. So I objected to that. I didn't think the judge had a sufficient reason to shut him down. And I just sent them I tried to send them a nice note to the court that said, hey, I didn't like the way you treated Tom. So in protest, I'm going to show up, and I will not shut the camera off if you tell me to. And I'm ready to be arrested rather than shut the camera down, basically.
And so you were. I mean, you went in there. You didn't even make it into the courtroom, as I understand it, though.
Right. When I sent the note, he hadn't really quite banned cameras completely. As soon as he got the note, he just banned cameras completely. So, but whatever they said, they were going to have to choose between arresting me and letting me in, and they just chose to arrest me.
When is your trial for the act of civil disobedience? Do you have a court date for that?
Yeah, I think it's an arraignment. The charge was disorderly conduct. They held me for about an hour and a half and then let me go. Gave me an April 13th court date.
So we're here with Ian Freeman, host of nationally syndicated radio show Free Talk Live. And you guys are broadcasting live from the Liberty Forum, right?
We sure are, all 3 nights.
Well, Free Talk Live is one of the biggest recruiters for the Free State Project. Have you met people here that have signed up for the Free State Project as a result of listening to your show?
Specifically, I have not asked that question. However, there was a panel discussion, there was a presentation yesterday, and it was actually before Glen Jacobs. Wayne, one of my co-hosts, came on and he introduced Glenn, and during that he used the opportunity to plug Free Talk Live about 10 times, and at one point he asked how many people were listeners of Free Talk Live, and I don't know, half the room applauded at that point, which was pretty amazing. So I would say the answer is yes, but I have not specifically gotten that answer.
Okay, and I know that I am usually on Free Talk Live Tuesday nights, so we'll give that a plug for both our sakes, freetalklive.com. Any last thoughts?
Wow, I mean, if you're not here in New Hampshire yet, you guys have obviously shot a lot of footage of the Liberty Forum here. I'm sure you're going to be showing that. It's an amazing event, and this is just one of the many forms of activism that's going on here in New Hampshire. If you love liberty and you're not surrounded by other liberty-loving individuals, if you're not surrounded by hundreds of other people, like-minded friends and people that are just amazing activists, you don't know what you're missing until you come up here and you actually experience it for yourself. Every year it just keeps getting better. And I'm just talking about the Liberty Forum, this one event. The movement itself keeps getting better as well, but this particular event, people keep getting more comfortable with one another. Every year they're getting to know one another better. That's resulting in relationships being built, and from that ideas are being generated. Those ideas are turning into real life activism. That activism is being videoed and promoted, and it's put out on YouTube, bringing more people to New Hampshire, meaning more ideas are springing forth, and we're really, even though it's the 3rd year of the Liberty Forum, we're still in the very genesis of this movement, and you can get a feel for how incredible it really is going to be when we finally have 2,000 people that have moved here. Right now, when we're recording this, we've got about 600 Free Staters in state, and of course that doesn't count guys like you that are New Hampshire natives that have been reactivated. So a few years down the line, it's going to be even better. Why would you want to be anywhere else?
Aside from speakers and people attending panels and simply mingling and socializing with people they share a lot of opinions with, another thing that happens here at Liberty Forum is the fact that there are vendors, whether they're pro-liberty organizations that are interesting to a lot of Free State Project participants, or whether they're just for-profit vendors selling items that people here are likely to buy. There's all kinds here at the Liberty Forum, and we're going to go inside, interview a couple of them from different organizations, and let you know what kind of vendors and exhibitions are here at the Liberty Forum.
The business name is Preparedness Equipment, LLC.
Okay, and the basic idea here is it looks to me like you've got what look to be PVC tubes, essentially to bury stuff.
Yes, in a variety of sizes. My first thought in making these tubes was to bury some gold and silver that I had.
Yeah, well, as I understood it, back during the Depression, they made it so you had to, if you opened a safe deposit box, there had to be a revenue agent there present to see if there was any gold.
That's my understanding as well.
So safe deposit boxes weren't so safe if you actually had precious metal in them.
It's a nice, safe place until the government gets involved.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we're here with Chris Lopez of the Second Amendment Sisters. The title sounds pretty straightforward, but do you want to explain what specifically it is that the Second Amendment Sisters does?
Right. The Second Amendment Sisters is just a group of women that want to support our Second Amendment rights and through either safety practices, getting together and learning how to shoot together, just having fun shooting, or just spreading the word to other people in the community about the Second Amendment and the safe practices that go along with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So we're here with Johnson from the Free Talk Live store. Johnson, you used to be a co-host of Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I was. And I look forward to getting back on the air when I can.
Where are you currently?
I'm currently in Connecticut. I'm studying to be a programmer.
So I think you kind of got closer to New Hampshire because if I'm correct, you moved from Florida.
Right, I moved up from Florida with all the other guys from Free Talk Live.
Do you have an ETA for getting to New Hampshire at this point?
Probably, I'm guessing not this summer, obviously, but next summer. Probably like fall, probably right after summer. I'm hoping.
All right.
That's
We'll see you up here. Thanks for the interview.
No problem.
One of the speakers here at Liberty Forum 2009 is John Taylor Gatto. He was at one time a public school teacher, and he was named Teacher of the Year in New York State at one time. But he has come out as somebody largely opposed to public education, or at least public education in its current form. And he's going to be talking a little bit about reasons for that, reasons why the structured form of public education we have right now really holds back a lot of the creative potential of young people in America rather than unleashing it. So let's go ahead and see what John Taylor Gatto is speaking about.
In the year 2006, the University of Connecticut wanted to discover how much learning occurred between entering college as a freshman and graduating as a senior. They selected 5 academic areas for study, and they picked 50 colleges to measure. A total of 14,000 undergraduates were randomly selected to participate. Nobody on this planet could have anticipated the result. In 16 of the 50 colleges, which included Yale, Brown, and Georgetown, the graduating seniors knew less than the incoming freshmen. In the other 34, there was no measurable growth evident, although up to $250,000 had been invested in an average of 6 years of time.
John Taylor Gatto just wrapped up his speech, and now it's cocktail hour. So as you can see, a lot of people mingling. The only remaining event tonight will be the keynote speech by Dick Heller of Heller versus D.C., the Supreme Court ruling, which finally established, in the court's view, an individual right to keep and bear arms. But until then and after the dinner, people are going to mingle, they're going to relax. Yeah, that's what they came here for.
And as you can see, there was a lot going on there. We actually we filmed way more than we can put up on this the free side of the show. It would take up the entire show already. It's taken up half. So if you want to check out more, we have more footage up on the member section. freemindstv.com is the way to sign up for that. $3 a month or $30 a year. But for now, it is time to move on. Let's move on to the Downsizer Dispatch, where we can talk about what's going on in Washington and what the viewers can do to let their opinions be heard.
All right, well, this week's Downsizer Dispatch deals with some of the supposed protections that were put into the stimulus bill, the second stimulus bill, the one that recently passed. There was a Title 15 provision in there which was supposed to deal with waste and making sure that the bailout money was spent responsibly and efficiently. As you can imagine, it didn't work out so well because the federal government isn't very good at reining in waste. There are 2 panels that are actually created for oversight. One is called the Recovery Independent Advisory Panel, and the other one is the Accountability and Transparency Panel. Now that sounds nice. It sounds like they're going to be holding people accountable for spending the money correctly. They're going to provide transparency. You'll know where the money's going. But there are some problems with this. First of all, these are presidential appointees, and it was essentially the president's pet project. And unlike other government posts that are there for oversight, like IGs, these aren't really supposed to be nonpartisan. There's no provision written in there that this is going to be nonpartisan. So the people in this advisory panel can have a partisan agenda, and they're not supposed to be independent, unbiased, objective observers. There's also the fact that members of the panel can accept gifts of services and property, and they're outside of the regular regulations that govern civil service. They can accept as much as $143,500 in gifts. So you can imagine if some banks or other institutions are getting money from the bailout that's being wasted, they might give some gifts to the members of the panel so they don't say too much about it. So these protections that were supposedly built in here, they're not really going to cut it. It's not much of a surprise. Unfortunately, the bill's already passed. But if you want to prevent bills like this from passing in the future, maybe by giving people time to read this before it becomes law, go to downsizedc.org, and you can either help promote the One Subject at a Time Act, which would have applied and made this one particular independent law instead of just one part of a much bigger bill, or the Read the Bills Act, which would cut the length of the bills. Again, downsizedc.org.
Yeah, I like the idea. Personally, I think we could do without the federal government. And I think they do more harm than good. But as long as we're entrapped in their trenches, I think, well, at least let them know what you think about. All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking about drug amnesty. I don't know, it seems pretty ridiculous. But then again, so do gun amnesty programs. We'll be back. Stay tuned. This is Free Minds TV.
Dave Ridley here from RidleyReport.com. Just wanted to urge Monadnock area viewers, please take Free Minds TV in moderation. You don't want your head to get loose and go floating around. Also, when you get to the courthouse for jury duty, please don't let the judge trick you. Don't ruin people's lives without good cause. You have the right and the duty to acquit any accused lawbreaker if you dislike the law. Visit FIJA.org to learn more.
Free Minds TV is brought to you in part by Life Productions for your basic and semi-pro video production needs. From full wedding and event coverage to DVD authoring and distributions, lifeproductions.com. That's LYFproductions.com.
Log on to freemindstv.com for archives of the show, the Free Minds Radio podcasts, show content and the forum, ways to donate, the members section, contact info, and a whole lot more, all at freemindstv.com.
This is Glen Jacobs, and you're watching Free Minds TV.
And welcome back to Free Minds TV. As always, it's Toby here with you.
And Nick.
I'd like to invite the viewers to log on to our website. freemindstv.com is where to contact the show, ways to help the show, all the old archives, the member site, and a whole lot more. freemindstv.com. All right, Nick, we've talked extensively about gun amnesty programs before, both on Free Minds TV as well as Free Minds Radio, where where police departments go out there and they have a bin where people can turn in their guns and for amnesty, and they won't check the guns or arrest people if some kind of a crime has been committed. If there's an amnesty side of it, we can see why people would want to turn in, say, a gun that's been used in a crime so that they're not getting in trouble and it's not getting tied back to them. But this is something new. I've never heard of this before. This coming from Western Australia, where they're trying out drug amnesty program. Yes, trying to see if people will turn in the drugs that they paid probably a lot of money to police departments if they're not going to get in trouble for it. This happened at the Rock Festival in Joondalup, Australia, where 26,000 people attended a rock music festival. The police were there with their drug dogs in a big old bin, asking people to turn in any drugs they may have brought to the show. Well, the police were very surprised that only a couple people turned in a very small amount of drugs. They're very confused by this. They're not really understanding why it is people would buy drugs, bring them to a rock concert to take, see that they can give them away without getting in any trouble, and then not do it? Why would anyone not give away the drugs that they had paid so much money for? Well, probably because they bought them for a reason, and that was to eat them. And if they wanted to dispose of them, well, they could have flushed them down the toilet. That's amnesty right down.
They could have just not bought it in the first place.
Well, that's what most people would do. So the police also do warn that in the future they did arrest one person who walked right by the drug bin, didn't turn in his drugs, and then later they arrested him. So in the future, if you ever see these drug bins, you have drugs on you, the police in Australia highly suggest you turn them in.
Well, I mean, how does that work, though? What if I'm walking towards the bin from the other side of the concert?
Well,
does that? I mean, you're not turning in the drugs, but
I was
you
going
could
to
be
the
on
bin. I swear. You know, I think what it comes down to is the police are wasting time and money. A lot of it. I mean, who's? Oh, I don't. I think the comments can speak for themselves on this one because the viewers watching, I think, can get the sense of this is just completely asinine.
Well, I mean the gun turn-ins.
It's a waste of money.
The gun turn-ins are just as asinine too, and we've seen that here in the United States.
At least they give you like $100 though. They weren't giving anything away for the drug.
But the thing about the gun turn-ins is that by and large, people are either, you can get more money for your gun if it's a legally owned gun. You can get more at a pawn shop, and if it's not registered or something, you can get more on the street. So people who can sell their guns, they can do it for more money than what you're going to get at a gun turn-in. Usually it's a $50 gift certificate or $100, maybe $200. The reason that people are turning in guns at gun amnesty, when we have gun amnesties in the States, it's not so much because they want to get money for their gun or they just want to get rid of the gun because they don't want it anymore. They could sell it to a gun shop and get more money. If they didn't like the gun, they could just smash it. But the reason that people are turning them in a lot of the time is the fact that it's a stolen gun or it's a gun that has been used in some kind of a robbery or a murder. It doesn't make much sense to me to try to take guns. In many states where they do this, there aren't that many gun laws. I mean, there are quite a few legally owned guns out there. So people are turning in guns, they can just go buy another one. So they're turning in guns that are probably used in a murder. It doesn't make sense to me. Essentially what you're saying is we would rather take guns away from people, quite possibly legally owned guns, as opposed to solving murders.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like if there are crimes the government should be working on, and I think there are, murders and armed robberies should probably be one of them, and gun theft.
And wasting money on creating a bin and hiring a police officer to stand outside it and waiting for people to turn in their drugs, well, you're just wasting your money because, as we pointed out, people who buy the drugs probably want to either sell them or imbibe them themselves, not give them away to the police departments. Like we said, they'd either not buy them or flush them down the toilet if they didn't want them. All right, Nick, moving right along, gas tax, a gas price increase. What's going on?
Well, Washington is looking at, I should say specifically Congress, because the White House has objected to this. Washington is looking at a mileage tax. Either that or increase the gas tax. So they're considering different options here, but they want to get more money from people driving on the roads. And the bipartisan commission in Congress said last week that lawmakers should increase the gas tax by 10 cents per gallon, but begin shifting to a mileage tax. This has raised a lot of concerns, not just about taxes, but about privacy concerns, because I guess they could do a mileage tax based on, I don't know, an odometer reading. But then, what if you're driving off the road?
Is this a mileage tax? That means for the amount of miles you drive?
The amount of miles you've driven.
So it doesn't really matter if you have a gas guzzler, for instance, versus you get 100 miles to the gallon, you'd still be charged on how many miles you've driven.
Right.
Okay.
Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you think about it, because you could be driving.
But then again, taxes in general, most of the time, they don't make sense. I mean, there's no such thing as a fair tax, but then again, I mean, someone who buys something that gets 50 miles to the gallon spent more money on that versus someone who bought something that gets 8 miles to the gallon. The person who bought the 50 mile an hour miles per gallon car might actually get taxed more.
Yes, and in a way, it cuts your incentive to, at least as far as the taxes go, cuts your incentive to buy a more fuel-efficient vehicle. So it's an interesting thing that a lot of environmental advocates are actually pushing for this mileage tax.
But it doesn't make sense.
They think it'll cut down on driving more than.
How's it? It doesn't seem enforceable to me. I mean, how are you going to enforce it? You're going to ask people
probably
to pull
GPS.
up to the pump? You'd have to have a GPS reader in every car then.
And that's not very.
So that's pretty big brother. I don't know. It seems like putting a GPS reader in every car to track the mileage that they're driving, that's a pretty big startup cost. We're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars. I mean, this law either seems like it would eat up more money, or it's just completely unenforceable.
Well, I mean, when you do your income taxes, you essentially just state mileage. So it seems like the government might just rely on you filling it in, saying how many miles you've driven.
I commute to work, Nick.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of people do, and
no, I mean, if that's what it is, just tell them, like, that's what I do. I commute, or I ride a bike. I mean, I'm not driving my car to work if I'm going to be charged by the mile that I have to get to work. It would be foolish.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and if you're going to raise revenue for the roads, the gas tax is probably the best way to do it. It's not Big Brother. It is essentially a user fee, because the heavier your vehicle, most of the time, I mean, generally speaking, the more wear and tear you're putting on the roads with your vehicle, the more gas you're burning.
Well, Nick, I'm going to go out there on a limb and be the crazy man and say, why is the government even involved in roads? But that's a topic for another day.
Why are they asking for more money, too? Right. They're always asking for more money because they don't spend the money efficiently. The roads are in very bad repair, but we're already paying fairly significant gas taxes, and we don't see a lot of return for that money. You usually don't with government programs. You get a very poor return for the money that's taken from you, and you don't have a choice either.
Right. I don't know. I don't like the idea. Hopefully it won't go through, but we'll keep you posted. All right, Nick, real quick, you got a minute here. What is Monsanto's dream bill?
Well, it's HR 875, and to make a long story short, it imposes all kinds of new regulations on farmers. Much like there's a national animal ID system that I don't believe has become law yet, but there's a push to make it law. It's FDA policy. And this bill is just one more nail in the coffin for small farmers. So if you believe that people should be able to grow their own food or run their own business, even if it happens to be a farm, you should go online, check out HR 875, and tell your congressman that you oppose it. It doesn't guarantee much is going to happen because Monsanto has lobbyists.
Yeah, I know a lot of our viewers are very concerned with what Monsanto is doing, and I with all this genetically modified food. I think the problem with Monsanto, though, that I think a lot of people could agree on is the government's involvement and the government allowing for these patents and other things that they're doing that make it very hard. I think the government involvement is what makes Monsanto bad. So let's get them out of it. All right, that's going to do it for us. We are all out of time. You can log on to the website, freemindstv.com. There's a ton more posted there. It's been Toby here with you.
And Nick.
Have a great night. Free Minds TV is brought to you in part by anarchyinyourhead.com, a comic about freedom. When it comes to politics, they hate just about everyone, so they're bound to make fun of someone that you don't like eventually. Anarchyinyourhead.com, that's anarchyinyourhead.com.
In the year 1270, an unseen storm is brewing. An ancient blade guards its secrets. A reluctant hero dreams of destiny. Dark forces plot from the shadows. chance encounter changes everything. Cowardice is not an option. Heart of the Ronin by Travis Hierman. Available in hardcover February 18th on Amazon.com. For more information, visit the author's site at TravisHierman.com. In the year 1270, an unseen storm is brewing. An ancient plague guards its secrets. A reluctant hero dreams of destiny. Dark forces plot from the shadows. And a chance encounter changes everything. Cowardice is not an option. Heart of the Ronin by Travis Hierman. Available in hardcover February 18th on Amazon.com. For more information, visit the author's site at TravisHierman.com.